I don't even know where to start this one. I just remembered this encounter the other night and I had to post it. It was a few years ago, right as COVID cases started to soar. I was working at a grocery store. I worked there with my friends Josh and his girlfriend Trinity. We would try to plan things on our days off together so we could hang out. I should have ignored the text. If I had, none of this would have happened. It was 2 days before my day off, and I remember waking up to the buzz of my phone vibrating against my nightstand. I squinted at the screen, still half asleep. Josh, you off Thursday? Me, yeah, why? Josh, don't make any plans. Me and Trinity have a surprise. That was it. No context, no details, just a cryptic message that immediately had me curious. I should have known better. Josh was always dragging me into weird shit. Urban exploring, sneaking into places we weren't supposed to be, testing out all those haunted legends people whispered about. Half the time it was just abandoned buildings and graffiti-covered tunnels. Nothing ever really happened. But to be honest, I loved it all. But something about that message stuck with me. Maybe it was the way he worded it. A surprise, like it was something special. I texted back, asking what he was talking about, but all I got was, Josh, just trust me. Pick you up at 7. I should have said no. I should have told him I had plans, even if it was a lie. Because now, after what happened, I keep thinking, Josh didn't find that place. Found us. I had decided to vlog the day for YouTube. We went to Sevierville, grabbed food, and then as the sun sunk behind the mountains, we headed to the old house on Sulfur Springs Road. You might have heard of it, the one everyone says is cursed, the one with all the stories about people going missing. Apparently, it was a small makeshift hospital during the tuberculosis outbreak in 1954. I've heard about it for years, but I never actually thought any of the paranormal stuff was real. But it is. It's real, and now I wish we'd never gone there. The house sits deep in the woods, way off the main road. It's huge, way bigger than I expected, like some kind of decaying mansion swallowed up by the forest. 3 stories tall, dark, and rotting, with thick ivy creeping up the sides like the earth was trying to pull it back to hell. The windows were shattered, gaping like black mouths. The front porch sagged like it was on the verge of collapse, and the whole place smelled like damp wood, rust, and something rotting. Josh was the one who pushed the door open. It barely took any force. The hinges let out this awful screech, like the house itself was screaming. Inside, the air felt sinful, thick, heavy. It was cold, but not in a normal way, more like the cold was inside you. There was furniture left behind, but it was unsuitable. A rocking chair in the corner, rocking on its own. Just like in the movies, clearly the gust of wind from the door opening was the cause, but that didn't make it any less creepy. A long dining table with plates still sitting there, covered in dust, like whoever lived here left in the middle of a meal and never came back. But the worst part? The portraits. Lining the hallway were these old, cracked paintings. Portraits of people whose eyes followed you no matter where you stood. Their faces were faded, but I could still make them out. One of them was a woman in a white dress. We didn't stay long. Trinity was freaked out from the second we walked in. "We shouldn't be here," she kept saying, rubbing her arms like she was freezing. Even Josh wasn't cracking jokes anymore, so we left. But as soon as we stepped outside, I felt it. That pressure that grows on the back of your neck. The one everyone knows but tries to ignore, like we were being watched. I turned back to scan the house one more time, and that's when I saw her. She was standing in the upstairs window, looking down at us. She was wearing a white Victorian-style dress, yellowed with age. The lace was ripped, the fabric hanging off her like it had once been elegant, but now it was something tattered. Her hair was long, gray, tangled. It framed her face in limp strands, her skin pale, almost cracked. Her lips were bleeding and split open. first, I thought they had been stitched shut, and the bleeding was from the threads being ripped out. But then she smiled, and I saw her teeth. Too many of them, rows of them. Her mouth stretched wider than it should have, like her jaw could unhinge, like she could swallow something whole. I grabbed Josh's arm, my chest tight with panic. "Do you see her?" Trinity was the first to react. She screamed, grabbing onto Josh like she was about to collapse. Her nails dug into his arm, and that's when the woman moved. She tilted her head, her smile growing, and then she raised a hand. She waved at us. She freaking waved? But it wasn't a normal wave. It was slow, unnatural, like her bones barely worked, like she was inviting us back inside. She almost floated away from the window, then in the direction of the stars leading down to the front door. That's when we ran. We tore through the trees, branches slapping at our faces, our feet stumbling over roots. I could feel her watching us, like her eyes were digging into my back. Then Trinity fell. Josh and I stopped and turned around to help her up, and we looked back up towards the house to see if the woman was following us. The house was gone. The clearing was still there, the trees still bent like something used to be there. But the house itself, it just wasn't. Then Josh's car alarm went off. All the doors were open. We didn't even shut the doors. We just jumped in and floored it, tires skidding against the dirt. Josh didn't stop driving until we were miles away. Trinity wouldn't stop crying. I wouldn't stop shaking. Josh and Trinity won't talk about it. Did we all have a shared hallucination? Maybe some sort of delusional moment? Some sort of echo from the past, from all the despair from the house? I know what we saw. I know the terror we felt. But the worst part? When I got home, when I finally made it to my room, I saw something. A piece of fabric. A shred of white lace. Sitting in the middle of my floor. I don't know how, but I think she followed me home. My 3-year-old daughter talks about a guy called Mr. Longneck and says creepy stuff about it. I'll begin by saying I'm personally more on the side of a skeptic frame of mind with any paranormal experience, but enough things have happened in the last year to make me at least question that and entertain the possibility that this is legit and not just my daughter's active imagination. These events have occurred only in the house my husband and I bought in June of 2017, which was built in the 1920s. First, in October of 2017, I was laying her down for bed, in the dark, with only moonlight lighting the bedroom. She pointed across the room and asked, "Mom, who's that guy?" I looked for a toy or something she could be referring to but saw nothing. So I asked, "What guy, honey?" She responded that he was right there and gestured toward the closed bedroom door. Still curious, I asked her what he was doing in case I could piece together some recent episode of pretend play or a toy she commonly talked about. She said he was hiding. I asked if he was scared. She said, "No, he's hiding." Creepy. During this whole exchange, she was calm and chipper, not scared. What made it strange was that she was 2 at the time and didn't really engage in pretend play or storytelling at that point. And as I mentioned, no toys were in sight. From there, we just had a funny toddler story to tell our friends and family that we affectionately named that guy. This is the umbrella name we generally use for any other episodes or weird stuff that happens around the house. That guy is pulling a prank. Next, in Jan or February of 2018, I was again laying her down for bed along with her then 6-month-old brother. We were doing the usual cuddle-up night-night talk when she said something along the lines of, "Now it's time for bed. Just me and you and him and her." My skeptic mind would argue that him could easily have been her little bro, but at the time she was still adjusting to having a sibling and rarely mentioned him, and he wasn't included in any of her talk that we were just having. What really was strange was her. Who's her? The only other female in the house is our cat, and she wasn't in the room at the time. Also, no toys were in bed with us and none were in the near vicinity of her bed that she could have been talking about. A little later that spring, a new name came into conversation, Mr. Longneck. Short backstory. My daughter has this weird thing where she likes touching necks, Sometimes it's cuddly, sometimes it's when she's playing. We can't really explain it other than kids do weird stuff sometimes, and it started before we moved into this house. Anyway, she was getting put down for a nap and was a little high-strung. She was doing her usual neck-grabbing thing and suddenly did it a little tougher than usual, but not enough to hurt, and said in a growly voice, "Mr. Longneck, Mr. Longneck." I had never heard her use this name, and it isn't a character in any YouTube or Netflix show she watches. So I asked who Mr. Longneck was. She just kind of giggled it off and was asleep 10 minutes later. This was when I started getting creeped out a bit by her stories. In April of 2018, my husband found a time capsule in one of our heating vents, and we spent the afternoon looking through it. There had been a fire in our home in 2009, which we knew about and in which no one was hurt. During the renovation after the fire, the owners at the time found a bunch of old stuff in the walls and included it with some pictures of the fire and a couple newspaper clippings. Among the old stuff was a pack of pearl buttons, some store catalogs from the 1940s, and a small notebook with some handwritten names inside. I presume these are the names of the original inhabitants, and I plan to find the book again and look up the history behind the names inside as well as the home. After all this, my husband and I are suspicious that if there is something paranormal going on, maybe these objects are keeping some energy here or something. I know this is long, but we're almost done here. In about October 2018, I was driving to my mother's house with only my son and daughter in the car. Along the way, daughter, now 3, asked from the back seat, "Mom, is that Grandpa?" I said, "Where?" She pointed to the empty front seat and said, "Right there." I told her Grandpa was at home, as he had just recently moved in with us due to health issues. There was no one around on the street or sidewalks for her to point at, either. Now, there have been minor other events that have happened, but these were the biggest ones to describe in detail. I've posted this in another subreddit as well, and received advice to engage her further in conversation when it comes up. While we have to an extent to encourage her to be comfortable talking about it, I never pushed it in order to avoid leading the conversation or pulling answers out of her that she would offer just to appease the conversation. One day, though, and a few times after, I just decided to ask her about it. Below is a brief detail of what she has said in roughly the past month. Me: "Can you tell me about that guy?" Daughter: "What guy?" M: "You don't remember that guy?" D: "No." M: "What about Mr. Longneck?" D: "Oh, yeah." Face lights up. M: "Can you tell me about him?" And various other questions lead to, Mr. Longneck is a grown-up. He wears a monster clothes and a hat. He is nice but also scary. He says trick or treat but doesn't wear a costume. He lives far away and goes with Santa in the sky to his house where he belongs. She says he comes to our house at nap time, which she no longer has but was generally the afternoon. He knocks on our big door, patio door, walks through the kitchen. These were her exact words, and while she was telling me this, was pointing a path from the door to one of our living room windows. I asked what he says or does, and among a few things, she mentioned he played in the kitchen with her with the spinny cow toy. This is one of those Fisher-Price pull-string farm toys. She never plays with it, I rarely see it, and have never seen it in the kitchen. The specific details of this piqued my interest for sure. I also asked if he ever brought a friend, to see if I could follow up on the her mentioned earlier. He brings a friend. She is a little girl, not a grown-up, and has yellow hair like me. She is never scared of these talks, although she withdraws from the conversation when I ask about his neck and why it is long. So that's pretty much it. Thanks if you read the whole thing. I welcome any comments and advice. We have saged the house, but quite a while ago and plan to do it again. I think we will probably also get rid of the old items from the walls after we find out more about them, which is sad because it's the home's history. Looking forward to hearing what you guys have to say.